Welcome to the Lift Your Story podcast with guest Kim Ysabel Castro. Hi everyone, I am that gal. I am Lorianne from Milton, Ontario, Canada, and I am with...
I am that guy. I am Roy Miller from Dallas, Texas, and we would like to welcome you to our Lift Your Story podcast.
So in this episode, we're glad to have Kim Ysabel Castro, and she is the founder of Girls Got Goals PH. Welcome.
Hi, Lori. Hi, Roy. I'm so happy to be here.
Glad to have you. So tell us about Girls Got Goals PH.
Yeah, for sure. So I am a social media manager for health and wellness coaches. And I started initially Girls Got Goals PH as my blog name. And I was using my blog to, put out my stories, put out my thoughts, and use my blog as my portfolio. But then before I got into social media management, I was in the corporate world. So I was an events manager. We did live events for different corporate companies. But then the pandemic hit and all of our live events got canceled. So during those 3 or 4 months that there weren't any clients coming in to create for us to do live events, that's when I started dipping my toes into social media management. And then one of my clients who I was creating content for, I was writing her blog posts, wasn't posting the blogs on her website. So I asked her, why aren't you posting it? Don't you like the content that I was sending you? Is there something you need to be revised? And she actually said that she loved the content. She just didn't have the time to post it. So that's when it got to me that I can help this client, and I pitched to her that I can help her with her social media management. So from that blog, I turned it into my business name. So it's now Girls Got Goals PH. So that's how it all started, my journey as a social media manager.
So how hard is it, or was it, to get clients when you first started?
Yeah, so I have also been a content writer for the past 7 years. I was doing it as a side hustle while I was in corporate, and it was fairly hard to get these clients because I was working a full-time job, so I wasn't able to really concentrate on getting clients for my business. It was just really a side hustle. But I was super thankful for this first client because after that, it all snowballed. So she recommended me to someone and he recommended me to another one. And then I got the word out. So it was a great journey, but I'm still on the journey.
That's nice. When you get introduced, that's really important, that word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the best way, actually. Yeah.
So that's what so when you're doing the social media, coming to that word of mouth, do you work primarily with your clients for organic? Obviously their social media is trying to gain clients. So I would think, because there's the different ones. I mean, are you more into the sales ads, or are you doing it more organically?
Yeah, so I'm doing the organic content marketing. I create their content, their Facebook and Instagram content, and also the blog posts. So those are the 3 platforms that I focus on, and organically build their audience on all platforms. I haven't been focusing much on Facebook ads because that's a different animal in itself. So I'm focusing on SEO, creating the blogs, and content marketing strategies, which have been great so far.
Are you using video, or are you just doing written?
So I'm doing both video and photos, and I also do writing, which is for the blog post. So for the videos and photos, I edit the videos and create the graphics, and also do the captions, plus the hashtag research and all of that goes into creating a post.
Oh, okay.
So I was really interested because, this whole blogging seemed to go on the wayside for a while, and people were saying, well, it's not valid. You don't need a website. Blogs are going to the wayside. I never believed that. I've had a blog for years. I started back in, I don't know, the late 90s. And I am seeing this, but the whole SEO side of it has changed with that as well. And one thing I get a little bit nervous about when somebody's asking me, you know, can you help me out? I'm going, but, you know, I know there's certain content that you want to put in order to reach that. And that's specific. So did you take formal training?
So for a social media manager, I haven't taken any formal training. So I graduated as a broadcast communication student in college 7 years ago. And all my training as a social media manager were done through online courses by me just listening to different podcasts and YouTube videos. So, and also all of these different crash courses online, but nothing with like certifications or degrees. Yeah, but I find that these courses online are all so helpful already. And if like a college were to give like a formal training for social media management, by the time someone would graduate, the platform would have changed already, because that's how fast everything's happening on social media.
That was the point I was going to ask you is, you know, everything's going so fast, and you were talking about learning these courses. You know, do you ever get frustrated because you finished this course, you spent this time on it, and then you go out there to try to apply it, and it's like, well, crud, that doesn't work anymore. Then you got to go find, what's the newest. I mean, it's just, you can't keep up with it. It's going so fast.
Yeah, that's the kind of the struggle, but also the exciting part of being a social media manager. If you can see it in both ways, because you can see it either like you're always having to keep up with everything that's happening on each platform. But in my end, I see it as something exciting because everything's always fresh and everything's always new. So it's a continuous learning cycle.
Yeah.
So for the, again, just interesting. And one thing that I wish I could remember some of the lingo that's coming up. It's really interesting. But they were saying too in blogs, one of the top ways to attract readers is tips like 1, 2, 3, 4, like numbered. Mm-hmm. And I find that interesting. So apparently those go up in Google faster than just a blog. Have you noticed that there's a difference?
Yeah. So the list, it's like called a Listicle List article, wherein you put all the top 5 tips on how to do this and how to do that. I'm usually in the health and wellness space. So also I work with mindset coaches. So like the blogs that usually do well with this mindset coach would be the top 5 tips on how to use the law of attraction correctly, the top 5 tips on how to meditate. And yeah, those are usually the ones that do well, because people search the internet mostly for information, for education, and that's why they do really well.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because there's a comedian I just stumbled across on YouTube, and his deal is he says, the 5 this, you know, and it's always five things about such and such. He does those. That's his content, you know. 5 things to do when you're at your white friend's picnic, you know, or whatever, you know. And he goes, and he's hilarious. I mean, he's funny as all get out, but everything is 5, you know. So that is working real well for him.
Yeah. This brings me, and you're probably too young, Kim, to remember this, but which one was it, Roy? This is a question I know. Whether David Letterman or Johnny Carson that had their top, was it the top 10 list? So they were before their time on that. Yeah. So always good. People like the top 10 in radio and everything. So it still goes on with that sort of SEO thing. That's really
for sure.
Yeah, speaking of, a few years ago when I had a blog going, I know you had to have a minimum. Well, at one time it was 300 word minimum article. Then it went to like 750 words to get recognized and ranked in Google and stuff. Was it now 10,000 words?
Yeah, so now it's like the longer the blog post, the more chances you can rank on Google, but of course the content has to be quality content. So a range of about 1,000 and up would be good, but some blogs would have it like 1,000 or 5,000 words, but they're all just like fluff. So you have to find the balance between the length of having quantity for the numbers for your ranking to go up, but also the quality so that people would actually click and read your blog.
Right. I mean, so you have 1,000 word blog and 900 of them are keywords.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful with using too many keywords.
Yeah, that too.
So do and again, hashtags and tags, how important are those as well in addition to the blog?
Yeah, so tags are super important, and hashtags for Facebook and Instagram. There's a whole different set of things that I usually do to do the research of hashtags before I post them on Instagram and Facebook, and also the tags for the blog posts. Because some people think that like the tags and hashtags are just random words that are related to the blog or to the post. If you see something like in the photo of Instagram that's colored pink, if the girl is wearing pink in the photo, for example, they would put like hashtag pink, and that's not really helping with the reach of the content, and as well as the blogs. If you just put random hashtags and tags there, it'll actually mess up the algorithm for you, and Instagram, Facebook, or Google wouldn't push your content further to more people because it can see that you're just putting random hashtags, putting random tags. So it's so important to do the research on your tags and hashtags before just putting any random ones.
So in regards to the hashtags, so my thought is, so let's say you have hashtag life, or you have hashtag life goes on, has less numbers as far as hashtag, but I would think that one is the longer one, or the one that has fewer numbers, not like 20 million versus 500,000, would be more effective.
Yeah. So with the hashtag strategy in Instagram, there's like a maximum of 30 hashtags. So what you could do is mix up the 30 hashtags with the large number of users per hashtag, with the medium sized, and then the smaller size or the more specific ones. So if life, that would be the large, and there's 1 million people using that hashtag. So it's just, you would have less chance of being found, or of your content being found, because you're competing with so much, 1 million people, other people posting with the hashtag life. But when you go to the middle range, which is life goals, for example, that would have a less reach. So you would have more chances of being found using that hashtag. And if you go even more specific, for example, life goals for health coaches, that would be really specific, and you would be found using that hashtag. So mixing up all of these types, the large, medium, and super specific, would really help reach your audience more.
Lorianne, do you remember, was that site Hashtagify? Do you remember that from Mark, with do the hashtag research? Anyway, we were in that group.
I
think it was like Hashtagify or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but anyway, at that time, this is probably a year or two ago, love was the #1 hashtag. But you could put a hashtag in, a topic in, that would tell you the best hashtags to use. Yeah. So, and it also said, you got to be careful how you use them, because they can hurt you more than help you if you do it wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. There are so many hashtag generators online that it can be confusing and overwhelming as well. But I use different ones to try out each one. But I try to use hashtag generator. If you search it on Google, that's really helpful.
Yeah. What about emojis?
Yeah, so for emojis, I usually have them on like the caption just to catch more attention, because people who are visual would check out the caption as compared to it just all being text. But overdoing it also would make it look like you're like spamming or something. So just making sure to use it appropriately.
Yeah. Everything's in moderation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. 50 hearts is not better than 2.
I remember when I was messaging somebody, and if I put more than one emoji on it, she would get so upset. She goes, I can't stand it. If you put just a smile, that's okay, but don't you dare put 2 or 3 or 4 on here. And I'm going, darn it. Like if I'm laughing really hard, I want to put 4 of those guys.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the same just putting 1.
Which social media, in your opinion, is really the hardest one to navigate?
Good question. I'm actually focusing on Facebook and Instagram. So I like to niche down on these 2 platforms because I find that there's always something new. So it's difficult to spread yourself too thin and be a social media manager for all platforms. So these are the 2 that I do, but I also, and also the only 2 plus blogs that I offer in my services. But I find that TikTok is one of the most recent ones. So it's one of the newer ones for me to navigate. I have Facebook, I have LinkedIn, Pinterest, and Twitter, but I only use it for my own brand so that I can, test out the waters and practice creating content before I actually add them to my package. But I also have a TikTok, and it's one of the newest platforms and has a lot of different features that are different from the other platforms. So that's one that I'm currently learning and checking out all these different features because it always changes every single day.
Yes, yeah. Social media is crazy because it's so big and expansive, and it changes all the time. It's like every day is something new. Let me ask you a question. How do you see censorship in social media?
Censorship?
Yeah. Content censorship.
Censorship, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess with censorship, it comes hand in hand with plagiarism. So it's super important to make sure that when you are creating content or copy of that piece of content, you don't copy others' content word per word. So I see a lot of social media managers or clients who would complain that their content has been ripped off by someone and someone just copied it them word per word. So that's rampant in social media nowadays. So that's why it's so important to, if you are using a source, to credit the source or just paraphrase the source, just get the idea and use your own view and perspective. And yeah, that's with regard to that point that you were asking. And also with regard to censorship, it's a tricky thing because in social there, but it's also important to know where to draw the line and find that balance.
Well, particularly in health and wellness, because they're really sensitive about making claims and stuff. So it's hard. I would think it would be hard to write content with all the legal.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't make claims. This will cure this. So exactly. I think that would be a hard line to kind of navigate.
Yeah, so I had a previous client who was a cancer coach. So when I was creating content for him, it was a tricky thing. I didn't want to, make claims, but we also wanted to put out content that was informational for the users. So we would really do our research and also include all of the resources when we would post that content, but we would stay clear from giving too much information that we might be someone would come back to us and say that we're giving false information. So what we focus on mostly would be more motivational and inspirational content instead, to help uplift the spirits of these cancer survivors.
Yeah, yeah. Because they come back.
Stay under
You
the
said
radar.
this was cured,
Yeah.
and I'm not cured.
Yeah.
We had a few of our friends, Roy and I, that they were in the health and wellness, but it was, supplements and such forth, and really had to be careful because it was easy to end up in what, the Facebook jail.
Yeah.
And cut off. So yeah, very sensitive matter on that front.
I mean, I can understand, them not wanting false information, false claims, but sometimes they go a little bit overboard on shutting you down, in my opinion, because you're not really making a claim, you're just giving information, like you say, but they take it as, oh, you can't say that, boom, you're out, so.
And you've got to watch gestures too, which is kind of interesting, because you look at Facebook and people will post these cartoons with things that are questionable, gestures and that. But it was funny because I kind of had one because of my podcast, and they let me post the link, but they cleared off the picture.
Yeah. Instagram and Facebook, especially Facebook, is really strict on so many things. So it's really difficult if you have all of these different images, and they would see it as something that they would ban you for. So yeah.
So they didn't ban me, but they just didn't show that. And it's in a private group, right? So it's not like on my Facebook page. So I guess that kind of helped with them not saying not allowed on here. I just thought that was funny. And even if you have just this much of a tidbit of a YouTube video.
Yeah.
That, let's remember we were having that conference, and this one lady wanted to show that it was a cute little kind of dance thing, or a little skit of Abbott and Costello. And when Facebook saw that, they negated the whole thing. So I had to go and edit it, and I had to take that portion out.
Facebook does not like you taking people off of Facebook.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. They want you to stay on Facebook with Facebook, not anything else, so they're pretty hardcore on that.
Yeah. So I see one of the tactics would be, instead of posting in the actual caption the link to the podcast or something, or YouTube, you post it in the comment section, so that Facebook wouldn't push out your content to less people, because it doesn't really check out the comments anymore. So that's one of the things that I practice.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Yeah. Wow.
So in the caption, it will be just check out the comments for the link to the YouTube or the podcast, and then you would be the first one to comment, and you could pin the comments so that people would be able to see the link, and would help you not be pushed out less by Facebook.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
That's a good tip there.
Yeah.
I love it.
We're getting education here.
We are. It was funny what you were talking about, how things change. I've got these courses on Udemy, however people say it, Udemy, and I thought, okay, so they're pretty nice because they're lifetime ones, but these guys are constantly upgrading, because I do have the social media and the Google, and they go, come back, and we've got new content on here, because it's changing so quickly. If what I purchased a year ago would be redundant today.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how fast it changes. I mean, and we were earlier with someone talking about shiny object syndrome. You know what that is, right? Mm-hmm. So you spend all this time learning this. Okay, this is the latest, greatest thing, and you spend hours going through it, and then you start. Okay, I know it now, and then all of a sudden you see something. Oh, this doesn't work. This is what you do now. You're like, okay, I'll take that course. Then when you finish it, it's like, oh, but this came out, and and I am freaking guilty of that. Believe me.
it's just like technology. You get a phone, you're so excited, and everyone's looking at your phone going, oh, you've got that one, you got that one. 2 weeks later, someone comes out and they go, you're on the sideline now. There's the newest. Wait, it's only 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's how fast technology changes. It's crazy.
Curious. Okay, so I'm not saying I'm not a Clubhouse fan. I'm not a fan because, of course, Roy's heard this, that my poor little old tablet that I have, that's an iPad, but it's a mini iPad, was just a tiny little bit of a version too low to get on Clubhouse. So then now I've got this thing about Clubhouse. But have you worked on that one as a platform? Because that's a growing one.
Yeah, I've been seeing it all over social media, but I haven't really dipped my toes into Clubhouse so much just because Facebook and Instagram are also like, they see Clubhouse, they see TikTok, so they're adding more features to their own platforms. So I have to keep up with those two platforms because those are the ones that I'm really giving my services for. But I've been reading and seeing about these different reviews of Clubhouse. There's so much good review about it, but there are also those who find it like for the elite, if you would call it, because it's only for iPhone users or Apple users. You have to have an invite in order to enter. So those other people who don't have an iPhone or iPad are the ones who are making these comments, and also those who do have iPads and iPhones but aren't able to get invites are also sharing their certain comments on the platform.
I agree with you though, Kim, absolutely. I mean, I'm sort of happy. I sort of said it was a sign for me not to get on because I really want to focus on I've primarily Facebook, and me it's Facebook and LinkedIn. I do get on Instagram just because that's really big, and I've got a lot of people that, they look to seeing themselves because of our podcast, seeing themselves on there. So that's why I use that. But the key to me, and if you go too far and too many, you spread yourself too thin as far as I'm concerned. I believe that is something that people have said. But then every time there's a new thing, people want to get on it. But then it's like, where do you focus? And it's overwhelming.
That's true. A lot of social media managers and business owners want to be seen, and they spread themselves too thin, like you mentioned, being on TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and now Clubhouse. But if you are on all of these platforms, you're not really able to give quality content for all. You can actually repurpose the content, use what you have for Instagram or for YouTube, cut it into pieces for Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. But having really a niche platform, to 1 to 3 platforms is recommended. That would be the best because you can put all your effort into those platforms instead of spreading yourself too thin and having just like a few less than quality content on each.
I agree. Yeah. I remember there was a time where I loved blogging. So I think I had about, 7 different blog sites. That was crazy.
Wow.
Did I do this one? Did I do that one? So now I'm down. I've got 2 and no 3.
Yeah. And it's also good to have in mind like where your ideal clients are hanging out. If you're more of the professional or corporate world, you would focus more on LinkedIn. But if you're more of like the health and wellness space, they're more on Facebook and Instagram. If you are like in the banking or finance space, you wouldn't necessarily go to Instagram.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find your audience.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Your tribe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Your avatar.
Bugging me because I get frustrated with these things. Although the tribe one, I did have a cute little post on Facebook with the tribe. That was cute. So attract your tribe. Who you are is who you attract, right? So, and that's a good thing.
Kim, how can our listeners reach out to you?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook and Instagram and also my website. So it's Girls Got Goals PH. Website girlsgotgoalsph.com. My Instagram handle and my Facebook page are all Girls Got Goals PH. So yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
consistent across all platforms.
Yeah.
What we do for our podcast, we do post on all of them, as it says, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I also put on Google, put on our website. We put out there. But in all fairness to any one of our guests, it's good for them because it's all over the place. But at least if they're a LinkedIn person, it will be there. If they're a Facebook person, it'll be there. So we cover all the bases on this one.
Cool.
But for me personally, in my business, I'm Facebook and blog and YouTube. Those are my three. Yeah. So excellent. Learned a lot. I love this. I'm always intrigued. I sometimes sit there and go, I'm not going to continue doing this and messing my brain up trying to follow everything all the time. But it's always nice to get the update now and again. So I thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Kim.
Thanks to you, Lori and Roy.
All right.
Take care. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit us at lifterstory.com.